Hey, Doug Phelps here, and thanks for stopping by to view my video, Forecasting, the single most misunderstood word in construction. First, a clarification. You may think that anyone who would do a video about forecasting must be an accountant. I am not. But having been involved in the construction industry since 1974, yeah, that's a long time, and having consulted to many small to mid-sized contractors in the past 14 years, I know how to use accounting principles to measure and manage the success of a construction company. Now to the video. Mention the word forecasting to many construction company owners and then watch their eyes start to glaze over. Talk about forecasting for more than 10 minutes and then you can observe the bobbing of the head. Don't mistake that head bob with a yes nod. It's the one associated with dozing off. So why is forecasting such a boring subject for most construction company owners? The powerful benefits of forecasting are simply misunderstood by most. So why bother to forecast? Running your construction company without an operating annual forecast, which is broken down into monthly goals, is akin to building a construction project without a plan in mind, just winging it from one day to the next. Now, hardly anyone will dispute the fact that building a construction project in that manner, without a plan, is inefficient and costly. The same can be said about running your construction company without an annual forecast and measuring the company's performance to that forecast on at least a monthly basis. Lack of forecasting or lack of planning is a poor business practice, which is costing you money by not maximizing the company's potential. This lack of planning usually permeates throughout the company's culture, resulting in a reactionary culture as opposed to the much more efficient and profitable proactive culture. A reactionary culture is akin to driving a vehicle by looking through the rearview mirror instead of looking forward out the windshield. You never see the obstacles until you've already hit them. Hardly the best way to drive a car, nor the best way to manage your company. A reactionary culture often results in a workday being consumed by putting out fires. Don't you love that picture? A more efficient and profitable method is to have a proactive culture, which through anticipation and foresight helps to prevent the fires from starting in the first place. Forecasting is a forward-thinking process, which helps to create a more profitable, proactive culture. So just who should develop the forecast? Depends on what kind of company you want to have. You want your company's success to depend solely on you? Or would you prefer to build a team and work together to drive its success? Do you want to just allow business to happen, or do you want to make it happen? So who should be involved in developing the forecast? Simply all those on your management team that have control of or a strong influence on its outcome of making it happen. That includes your sales estimating team, who's responsible for bringing in the work. It includes your construction operations or your project management team, who's responsible for managing and completing the work. And it may include your staff department managers, who are responsible in providing the necessary support to administer the completion of the work. It takes a village, so to speak. The ultimate success of your company should not rely solely on your ability to shoulder all the responsibility. Alone, you can only take your company so far. Maybe this analogy will help you to understand the power of forecasting. When a project is bid, an estimate is generated, hopefully broken into phases and based on true costs, and this cost estimate becomes the benchmark from which to measure the construction operations performance. Their goal is to complete the job with less cost than what was bid, while of course still meeting the quality requirements. A forecast serves the same purpose. The forecast is the company's benchmark from which to measure the collective efforts of the team. It creates goals. Developing a forecast is a method of establishing goals for your sales estimating and construction operations. Now imagine your sales estimating team working together towards meeting monthly goals or landing new work. Imagine your construction operations team having monthly goals of how much work to complete. Imagine a monthly scorecard which compares the actual results to the forecast, which will inspire your team, your management team, to succeed. Here are the components of forecasting. You have the total revenue for the year. Some of you might call that sales or income. I refer to it as revenue. Your revenue is comprised of the revenue backlog forecast, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Your new contract awards forecast, and the new revenue created from those new contracts. You can establish a general formula that will estimate how much revenue will be generated depending on when the new order is received. The new contracts award forecasts are the goals set by your sales estimating team. And now backlog. Backlog is sometimes a very important yet forgotten number and is not always quantified in many construction companies. Forecasting will force you to know its value and to keep track of it. And then you have the cost of completing the work, direct costs, indirect costs, and what's left over is gross margin contribution. So your revenue minus your direct costs minus your indirect costs is gross margin contribution. Once the work volume is established, you determine the organizational needs required to support the completion of that work by developing the overhead budgets. And the beauty of establishing your overhead budgets is that now you can calculate your overhead recovery rates for bidding purposes, which is essentially knowing your break-even point. So here's how your forecast looks as an arithmetic equation. You have your revenue minus your direct costs minus your indirect costs. That equals your gross margin contribution. And I encourage you to openly share this information with your management team. After all, they helped you develop these numbers. You shouldn't have to share any of the below numbers, such as your operating overhead budgets, which is subtracted from your gross margin contribution, and what's left over is your expected net profits. Profit, one of my favorite words, and it makes a great picture too. The forecast becomes a benchmark from which to measure the performance of the key components of your company, which are attaining new work, performing the work, and minimizing the cost of doing business. It's a forward-thinking process that encourages strategic thinking as your management team strives to meet those goals. This goal-oriented, forward-thinking environment that is founded by forecasting will also become the backbone of your company culture, helping to make that change from the costly reactionary environment to a more profitable, proactive company culture. Imagine your management team striving to beat the forecast. Imagine your management team wanting the company to make as much money as possible and striving to make that happen by beating the forecast. Imagine the success of your company being shouldered by many instead of just you. If you believe in teamwork, you have to treat employees as being part of the team. If you forecast as I have described, it will foster a teamwork spirit. A forecasting environment will improve the bottom line. Is that the type of company culture you want? Imagine a forward-thinking culture. Imagine a goal-oriented culture. Imagine employees being all in. The power of forecasting. Isn't that the type of company you want? If you need help, I am Doug Phelps, founder of Management Consultants for Contractors and developer of the Just Rewards plan. I am also founder of Phelps Internet Marketing Group. Thanks for stopping by.